Good evening, everyone. It can be an interactive presentation or it could be me just talking to you. So I'll try one more time so I'll know what this is going to be like. So good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's going to be interactive, I see. Okay, good. Well, I thought that we needed to have a state of the city just so you understand what's going on in Lathrup Village. So I welcome you here and I thank you for coming out on this hot evening, and I'm so happy that our our air conditioning is working. I came prepared though. So again, welcome, and I want to give welcomes and greetings from our city council. One from me and then also from Bruce Cantor, our Mayor Pro Tem. In Ferguson. Salim Siddiqui, he's not here this evening. He's traveling the world right now, so I'm quite a little jealous of that one, but I'd rather be here with you. Okay. And from Donna Stallings also. So this is going to be quick, and I'm not going to hold you all night. Just to do a quick overview and give you the agenda of what's going to happen is I'm going to give you an overview of Lathrup Village, and of course, I'm sure most of you already know a lot of it, but this is for the people that may not know as much. Also to introduce the new staff, and then give a year in review of what we've done up until this point, and then give a little bit of a review of what we plan on doing. And then we're going to have our departmental reports, and then of course from the emails, the phone calls, and the letters that I have received, we are going to talk about the roads. And I do appreciate every single letter that I have received. Thank you. And every suggestion. Thank you, Frank. First and foremost, most people know that Lathrup Village was founded by Louise Lathrup Kelly. She purchased the 1,000 acres in 1923, and she, went on to develop what we know now as Lathrup Village in the 1.5 square miles. She also gave out to people that bought property here a book which was called The Gateway to Happiness, and believe it or not, I have been trying really hard to find this book, but of course, it's not in circulation anymore, probably for obvious reasons, but I haven't checked the library yet. But in this book, it was giving you versions of what type of architectural buildings you could have for houses here. And it was free to anyone that bought any building lots here. But from that, we see what we have now, which is the city of Lathrup Village with over 4,000 residents. And then, believe it or not, going up and down Southfield Road, we have about 50,000 cars coming through here. The one thing that I've loved about Lathrup, and I grew up in this area, I'll just leave it at the 70s, I've been over here, is the historical homes that we have here and the different homes that we have here. And in researching this, I came to find out that one was based off of a trip to California, and anyone can correct me at any time when it comes to question and answers, not now. But it was the fact that she had built these houses based off of what she saw in California. And that's why you have some of these houses that have attached garages, but not the attached garages that we know. You know, you still have to go into your garage and you have to come out and still go into your house. But that was the idea of it. And that's one reason why we also have the streets named after California, because she was very impressed. And we know that Louise Lathrup had some rigorous standards about Lathrup Village, and we'll go into that later, not at this point. But one of the rigorous standards that she had was that houses could only be built of brick masonry, and as I said before, they had to have attached garages, which I think some of them do not, but that's neither here nor there. One thing that has developed from Lathrup is the fact that many have now found out that you can live and shop in Lathrup. I don't know about you, but pretty much everything that you do, you really can do in Lathrup or within 5 miles of Lathrup, because I don't want anyone to get after me and say there's no grocery store in here, but technically there's 2 within a 5-mile radius. Also, this is a great place for startup businesses. I don't know if you started noticing, we do have boutiques that are popping up. We actually have a free clinic, and I forgot to write the name down, but if you have a question about it, It's where, and I met the lady, and I apologize for not having the information, but there is a free clinic that happens every Saturday, and I believe it's right across the street. And again, if anybody knows the name of it.
Mappy. Is it Mappy?
I think it is.
Yeah, Mappy.
Yep. Which I was very shocked in that, and these are the things that we should know. Also, within Lathrup's confines, we have Fortune 500 companies. Well, we have a Fortune 500 company, which is AT&T, and then we have a plethora of franchises like Happy's Pizza, Domino's, Oga's, things like that. So moving on to our new staff members, which I see that they're not here, but that's okay. First, we have Susie Steck, who is the Manager of Community and Economic Development. And if she was here, I'm sure you all would clap for her, right? Thank you. And the other person is Kelda London, who is Assistant with the Government Operations. Kelda also works as our code enforcement. We have heard you, we have heard you, we have heard you. That is why Kelda got trained in code enforcement. But now, don't get angry when she knocks on your door or she leaves a note on your door, because we're doing as you ask us to do, correct? Okay. And the next new Lathrup Village staff member is Chris Clough. I said it right, good. And he's the coordinator of Parks and Recreation. Each person has given me their department report, so I will be able to let you know what's exactly going on in each department. And of course, most of you may have read, but we do have 2 new full-time police officers. We have Officer Michael Tackett, and we have also Officer Zara El-Arani, who's also not here, but that's okay. We'll clap for all of them at one time. So really quick, just to have a year in review, because I think that we've had a fantastic year thus far. We've done a lot in a few months. Number 1, celebrating Frank Brock. Most of you know that Lathrup is synonymous with Brock, or Brock is synonymous with Lathrup Village. Frank has been the mayor, or had been the mayor for Lathrup for 22 years, starting in 1995. He decided to retire in December of 2018, to most of our dismay, because Frank did come with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, which we really do appreciate. And one thing about Frank is that he was also very helpful, and I will say that he was a mentor of mine, and I'm sure if I still call him to this day, that he still, well, I'm gonna say this, he still will help me. I believe he would. So because of his dedication and how we respect and love Frank, we decided to make sure for the days to come, even when we're long gone, that Frank will still have his way. So right outside to your left and to the north of this building is Frank Brock Rolling. I don't know if you've noticed it or not. We also had a marijuana town hall. That was simply for informational. It was not for any decisions. It was just to try to get a feedback and a feel of what the residents want, what you thought about. So, oh, I'm so sorry. That's my phone. I should have turned the ringer off. Okay, sorry. But anyway, it was held on January 26, 2019. One thing that Lathrup did decide is that we did decide to opt out at this time, just to get more information, put together a study group, and just to know what exactly does it mean to have dispensaries or whatever type of facilities in Lathrup, if that's what we decide. So I can't say that we're yay or nay. We're just right now saying, you know what? Let us take a step back and see what everyone else is doing, and let's get some more information about this. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we still have spots on the study group for that. So if you are interested in being a part of that, please give your name either tonight or email me or Cheryl and let us know that you're interested in that. The other thing that we did this year, and we have done it every year, this one was a little different because it was a full house. I don't know if you all came, but it was packed in here for Martin Luther King celebration. What made this different was we collaborated with Southfield this time. So if you know that Southfield has their Martin Luther King celebration in the morning and they have their walk, and then we had the celebration in the evening, and we actually did busing back and forth between Southfield and Lathrup so everyone could partake in this celebration that we had here. One thing that when I was researching to do this and trying to figure out what should I say about Martin Luther King, and this quote jumped out at me only because this is how truly I do live my life, and I think that I try to exude that to other people and encourage other people to do this. And I will read this, and I do hate when people read PowerPoints, but I'm gonna do this one. But we must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. The reason why I picked that, and if you remember, I put a kind of a pin in it when talking about Louise Lathrup, right? One thing is, are we thrilled on the fact that our city was based off of racism? Are we thrilled about the fact that our city was built off of discrimination? Absolutely not. But let's look at the other side of it. This was a woman at a very interesting time in history that decided to develop a city. That was kind of uncalled for if you really think about that. So let's push aside what her thought processes were with the people and the part that we don't like and think about what she did do. She did develop this beautiful, well manicured, diverse, inclusive city, and that's something that I will always be grateful for. Again, learning to forgive what's not something that we like, and then and look at what's good for us. So I thought that was really interesting. And so one thing that we can say is Lathrup is one of the region's most inclusive communities and reflects diversity in its multicultural and female leadership team. That's another thing, that Lathrup in the state of Michigan, because I haven't looked everywhere else, is pretty much the only city in Michigan that is led by an all-woman staff. Okay, I gave you pause so you can clap on that one because that was like, that needs. And I think that's amazing. Another thing that happened at the celebration is the fact is that we brought in everyone that represents Lathrup Village, all the way from the federal level down to the local level. And let me pause and say this, and I apologize. I want to introduce and say welcome to Nancy Quarles, who represents us at the Oakland County Commissioners. So coming back to the Martin Luther King celebration, we had we had our Congresswoman for the 14th District, Brenda Lawrence, was here. We had representation from Gary Peters' office was here. We had Jeremy Moss, our Senator Jeremy Moss. We had our state representative, Kyra Bowden Harris. We had our judge, Oakland County Judge, Denise Langford Morris was here. We had the state school board representative, Tiffany Tilley, was here. Again, Nancy Quarles, who represents us for Oakland County Commissioner, was here. And of course, our state Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, was here. And our local school board member, Leslie Love Smith, was also here. So you had an opportunity to see that we all do work together. We might not always agree with what we're doing, but we were all here and we were all celebrating together and all supporting Lathrup Village. So for now, our city administrator's report. This should be good, right? Cheryl's been with us for over a year now. She is focusing on improving operation and staff training. And that means that it's not just about training on procedures and policies and things like that. It's also, believe it or not, of how to interact with you at the front counter and how to return phone calls. And I know that might sound crazy that you got to teach someone how to return phone calls, but it's something that you all have asked for over the years, and it's something that we are very dedicated into following up and making sure that your needs are met. We have also transitioned the operations of the sanitary retention tank from Pam, our treasurer. I have to be honest, Pam was the only person that was really trained in working the retention tank, and unfortunately every time it rained, it's kind of like every time a bell rings, an angel got its wings. every time you saw it rain, you knew that Pam's phone was going off and she was somewhere screaming. So we have now taken that off her back, and we are now transitioning to the Oakland County Water Resource Commission. And that means that the county is gonna monitor the tank and they're gonna make repairs as needed. Also, as you may have seen, that we have been sending out an electronic newsletter. It's been sent out at least monthly. I know that you all miss our town, and we are working on it, and we are revising it, and we are putting it out soon. So I'm not gonna give a date because I know that dates keep moving, and I don't wanna have anyone upset because I didn't meet that deadline. But it was in my email today. I did see the draft of it, and it will be coming out soon. Also, from our treasurer, we have our millage rate has been reduced slightly, and I'm sure that most of us are very happy to hear about that for a little while.
Until
I know, I just thought about that, so clap now. And your summer tax bills have been mailed out, and the due date for those is August 31st. Another thing with the city administrator, she has put together a city staff meet and greet, which is gonna be Thursday, August 1st, and it's 4:30 to 6:30, and it's gonna be outside at the Municipal Park Pavilion. This is an opportunity for you to meet the staff, for you to have one-on-one conversations with the staff. Also to give your feedback and give some suggestions on what you think we can improve upon. And the one thing that I'm really big on is I know that you have complaints. I know that there's things that have changed. I know there's things that need to be fixed. But don't forget, we also live here too, so we see it too. So coming with a suggestion or coming with a complaint, let's try some suggestions or recommendations too, and we can learn to work together and try to please mostly everyone. I'm not sure if we're gonna really please everyone, but we at least can try to take some recommendations in. And this is your opportunity to give some feedback to us. This is also your opportunity to join us in different commissions and boards to see where you fit in at. Also, which I got excited about this, and maybe it's only me, there is also gonna be a free taco bar. And some music. Maybe I'm just the only one that's a little bit of a pig, I guess. Next, we'll be talking about the DDA in business development. I wasn't sure, but can anyone in here name just one person on our DDA? Not you. And not you. Exactly. So what I wanted to do is introduce you to your DDA board members. We have Miss Bobby Lovins, who is a business owner in Lathrup Village. Jet Daliwa, who is also a property owner in Lathrup Village. Vernon English, who's a resident. Corey Fortson, who is a business owner, and I think most of you may have seen that name somewhere because it's directly across the street. Myself, Ryan Hertz, who is I think he's the chair of the South Oakland Shelter. He's the chair, I believe so. Cheryl Fred Prime, who is a resident. Dan Suck, who is the chief mortgage officer for Michigan First Credit Union. Sam Surnow, who everyone may know is a property owner in Lathrup Village, but more specifically, he is the owner of the Annie Lathrup School to our north, not Lathrup Village. And then last we have Dan Vertebra, who is also a realtor, where I think Bobby's a realtor too. Thus far in 2019, we have 138 business licenses. We have also developed the planned unit developments, which is called a PUD, and this is a zoning text amendment to allow for planned unit developments, and it has for additional standards for drive-through uses. We thought about this and we came up with this for the fact is that Panera Bread is asking for a drive-through directly across the street, and so we're trying to work with them to try to accommodate. Also, we have Jagged Fork is supposed to be opening in July, but seeing that this is July 18th, I would say they're supposed to be opening in the next 2 weeks. And last, what I was told is that our commercial vacancies are down now. And some great things, we received $25,000 technical assistant grant for our master plan update from the MEDC and the RRC. We've also submitted a TAP, which is the Transportation Alternative Program, for a bike route which will connect Southfield Nature Center to Lathrup Village. And if we are awarded this, this will start in the spring of 2020. And then I don't know if you've noticed or not, we do have new banners that are along Southfield Road, and that's also from the DDA. And this excited me, even though, and I have to be honest with you, most of us, we were so excited that we kind of failed to really find out what it was when we got the award. But we were awarded the Program on a Rise from Main Street, Oakland County on May 9th. And so what this is the use of public spaces, and we got this because of the way that Lathrup Village supported Hortless Gardens. Now, Hortless Gardens was north of us, and it was a phenomenal concept. And so we were recognized from Main Street for that. And the award, it's a cute award, and I think that it is in the office, or yeah, it's in the office just in case you wanted to see it for yourself, or if this was not good enough for you to see it in the presentation. I don't know who these people are, but you also told us that you were tired of seeing trash up and down Southfield Road. Well, guess what? When you sign up to be on City Council for free, this is also what you get to do. You get to clean up the ditches along Southfield Road. That's part of your payment. Just kidding. This was part of the DDA event. And let me tell you, the things that people throw on Southfield Road might amaze you. The things that we found, and I'm just very grateful that it was not a hot day that day, because it was very interesting, but it was fun. I think so. Sort of, except when my co-counsel thought it was funny that I was slipping and falling into the ditch. That entertained them for some strange reason. Some upcoming events. We have the master plan kickoff, which is going to be August 5th, and this is an opportunity for you too to have some input about what we're going to be putting into our master plan, what we're going to be adjusting, or what we're going to be taking out. And this starts at 5:30 p.m., and that will be here in this room in the community center. Also, we're going to have the Lunch and Learn on Friday, August 9th at 12 p.m. And this is to learn about current and future projects and programs of the DDA. So you're going to get a mini Main Street 101 training from Oakland County, and you are invited to that. Believe it or not, we do have a building department. Did you all know that? Remember we said it was going to be a feedback. You can, okay, well. So, first up, this is, and I was waiting to do this, I couldn't wait. This is the future site of the gas station project. This is going to be between Coral Gables and Ramsgate, which is on Southfield, off of Southfield Road. So this is going to be west of Southfield and is going to be north of Ramsgate. This is currently in the engineering review. The 11-mile townhomes, which is on, and excuse me for if I'm directionally challenged, but it's going to be east of Southfield Road, and it's going to be south of 696. Did I do that right? No, north of 696. Sorry. So they're moving forward, and at some time, and I know I've said this, and this has to be my third State of the City address that I'm talking about. It's coming. So I'm hoping that next year we'll have people actually moving into it, and this will be my last time saying it's coming. The new MRI building, which is across the street, is finishing up with its rough inspections, and it has been totally gutted, and it has been remodeled. It is absolutely a beautiful state-of-the-art MRI building, and just if you just want to see it, just go in there. It's gorgeous inside. Michigan First Credit Union has wrapped up. They have received their certificate of occupancy, and not sure if you know it or not, but there was a home that was damaged by fire on Lincoln in Southfield. And just to let you know that the plans have been submitted for a complete rebuild, which I'm really happy to hear that, because then we won't have vacant lots. It's actually going to be another house that's going to be there. One thing that I think all of us as homeowners will love to hear this is that foreclosures are down. We only have a couple bank-owned properties left, and many that have been bought have been remodeled and they are currently occupied. And the occupancy of non-owners also has decreased. So these are actually homeowners that are moving into Lathrup Village. And again, like I said, the commercial vacancy has been down, and many new businesses have taken occupancy in Lathrup. our world famous Lathrup Village Police Department. I'm sure all of us have seen us on TMZ or on something lately. One, I will say it publicly, and I've already told the chief that it just shows that you have done really a good job with the training of the police force, and I'm really proud on how the officer handled himself in that situation. And I could not be prouder to be part of Lathrup Village, because that was excellent. And I've gotten letters and feedback from many people that it was done absolutely perfectly. And if you don't know what I mean, talk to the chief right after we made the news again. So first, the police department has completed their semi-annual firearms training, which encompasses training with handguns, shotguns, and long guns and rifles. They're working on getting everyone recertified in emergency vehicle operations and legal updates. They have recently purchased a new software program, which is Power DMS, and that assists in moving forward with the accreditation process for the police department through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. We are currently fully staffed. We have 11 full-time officers and 3 part-time officers. We have 6 reserve officers, and we now have our first female reserve officer, who is Teresa Knoll. And I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but maybe tomorrow just go by and introduce yourself and say welcome, maybe. Also, some community policing events that's coming up, or actually we just passed. For July 14th, the police department was at the Oakland County Fair. They will be at the August 1st staff meet and greet. They will be participating on the August 23rd second annual bike rodeo, and will be attending the U of M job fair sometime in October. And I think somebody was just talking to me tonight about the traffic study. So just to let you know that the police department has submitted a request for a traffic study to be performed through the Transportation Improvement Association for El Dorado Place and Sunset Boulevard. They anticipate the study will begin in mid-July and will monitor vehicle speeds and traffic counts. And hopefully the traffic study will give us some insight on how to tackle an increase in traffic on these residential streets. So we've heard you about that also. From the Planning Commission. Oh, I was supposed to say, could you name one person on the Planning Commission, but now that I've put the screen up, not you. Here are your planning commissioners. And unfortunately, one is not here today because it's actually her birthday, so we should all just scream out happy birthday, Charles, when we get an opportunity. You all are really a rough crowd today, I see. Okay. Well, the meetings have been changed from the 4th Tuesday every month to the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and they start at 7 p.m. The meetings are now videotaped, and they are available on YouTube, on the website, and on Facebook. So if you want to find a link to it, all you have to do is go to www.lathrupvillage.org, and I believe it's under Government Boards, Commissions, and then you click on there, and that's where the Planning Commission is. We're going to have a joint meeting August 5th, and that joint meeting is going to be between the Planning Commission, the DDA, City Council, and that's going to be starting, we're going to be starting with the Comprehensive Master Plan process. And that's going to include future land use, implementation strategies, the Downtown Development Plan, and the Parks and Recs Plan. And I'm going to pause there or put a pin in it because we are looking for volunteers for the Recreation Advisory Committee. Again, if you are interested in that, you can talk to us after the presentation, or give me or myself, or excuse me, give me or Cheryl, drop us an email and let us know that you're interested in it. And speaking of Parks and Rec, so far we have hosted, or I should say Chris hosted, 4 park cleanups. We had a fabulous Family Fun Friday. I can't remember the actual date, but was at the beginning, June 28th, was it? Okay. It was great because we had local artists there. I mean, these were your neighbors there that you would never even guess had this type of creativity. It was, if you missed it, we're sorry, and hopefully next year that you can be a part of it. We are going to be having some future events coming up, and I'll give you the dates for those momentarily. I'm going to touch on the new rental policy for the parks because, believe me, I have been chewed up spit out, and everything else about these parks. And so, one, I apologize for how the signs read. That is not our intention. What it is if you would like to be in the park or have a party in the park, feel free. If you would like to reserve that space and make sure that no one else is there, that's when you're gonna need the reservation. What happened was 2 groups came in at the exact same time, vying for the same area, and it caused a problem. So now we just need to make sure if you're interested in hosting an event at the Pavilion or any of our parks where it's just for you, then you can guarantee it's only gonna be you there. We need you to do a reservation for it. Just that simple, and we're working on rewording the signs. So if you have any more questions about it or you're concerned about it, call Bruce. Just email me, call me, or contact Cheryl, and we'll be glad to explain it to you. Also, one thing that we have decided to do, and it's kind of like we've taken a little stealing from the time bank, is where you can now have community service credits. So as a group, so if you're doing something, let's just say, for instance, like the Community Foundation, where they plant flowers outside, that's putting something in their bucket towards if they wanted to reserve the park or they wanted to reserve this room. It's just about community and trying to get everybody involved. And like I said, with the Parks and Recs events, July 26th, which will be next Friday, we're gonna have a beach party. August 23rd, we have a back to school rally. September 14th, which I'm thinking there's a lot of people very, very excited about this because I've seen it posted at least 5 times, but Summer in the Village Caribbean Fest and Parade. I saw a taste of this past Saturday, and if it was anything like this past Saturday, it's going to be worth you coming out to see it because it was fantastic. And then, of course, we have our Wednesday night concerts, which has started July 24th, but they're through August the 7th, and they also have been very nice. And it's also an opportunity for you to come out and meet your fellow neighbors and your friends. So I thought that was just a neat slide, but just to go forward is one, I really appreciate to be able to stand here with you all today because one thing about Lathrup, you are a caring community and you have a can-do spirit. Regardless if we all don't see eye to eye, we all come together and we get it done. And as we move forward, we would love to have your feedback. We would love to have your suggestions. And remember that just like you're a resident and paying taxes and having issues with sticks on the side of the roads that are not being picked up, we too, me too, have the same issue. I could tell you many stories that I can complain about, but it's no fun when you have to call yourself to complain. So just moving forward, just know that all doors are open. You see us out, ask us questions, take us for coffee, or no, we can take you for coffee, and let's try to just move forward as a group. And as always, just to let you know that I'm very serious about having an open door. I really appreciate you all coming here, and I hope that you take my email address down. I was told to stop giving out my cell phone number, and I now know why, because some people are ruthless and you call it anytime when you're upset. So please feel free to send me an email. My email address is kgarrett@lathrupvillage.org, and I do respond to emails. It might take me a minute, but I do respond. And when that note, someone sent me an email, and I don't know what happened to it, but it was about the fire hydrant. So if you see this on TV, or if you're sitting in the audience, please come and see me. I do have the answer, but I can't find your email, and I can't remember the name of the person that sent it to me. So don't think I ignored you. I lost the email. I apologize. And so, though this is not my campaign slogan, and I did not run on this, let's start talking about fixing the, I'm not gonna say it, fixing the roads. So at this point, my portion is done. You all can either, you wanna take a couple of minutes? Oh,
No,
nope.
we're running late.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Cantor for the presentation. You want me to do what?
Yeah, I think Cheryl's gonna get my slide though. Yeah, normally I would go up there and stand up, but with a broken clavicle, it's a little easier to sit. And the irony of the broken clavicle is so thick you can slice it, because I broke it on Lathrup Village roads. So, and I'm the person tasked with fixing the roads. So, so again, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Bruce Canner. I'm a 30-year resident. I've actually lived pretty close to Lathrup Village for 50 years. I am on City Council, and I am the Mayor Pro Tem. And last March, I started an infrastructure committee with myself and 4 other residents. 2 of them are here tonight, Joe Robinson and Hugo Cardenas. And then the other 2 that I don't see are Mike Keenan and Greg Ruvalo. And we've all been working hard for quite a while now. As I said, we started back in March, and we were tasked with looking at 5 infrastructure areas. The first was the sidewalks, and we've actually completed our work on the sidewalks. Our recommendation was approved by council last month, and just real quickly, I know we're not here to talk about it, but I'll let you know what we're doing. This summer, there will be a sidewalk improvement program for the business corridor. So that's Southfield Road, 11 Mile Road, and 12 Mile Road. And then in the subsequent 4 summers, we're going to tackle 1 quadrant of Lathrup each summer. So in 5 years, all the sidewalks should be up to code, and it should be a much more walkable city than it is right now. The second area that we were going to focus on, and we'll actually begin focusing on this area later in the fall, which is our water system. And our water system has long outlived its expected life. A lot of the water mains that were put in, a large portion of them were put in the 30s, even in as early as the 20s, and they have a 50-year life. So kind of do the math. We need to do something about that, and we'll begin looking at that. The good news is our sewer system is in great shape. We've done a lot of capital improvements over the years, and it's in really good shape. So that leads us to the storm drains and the roads, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Okay? So if all goes well, on November 5th, there will be a ballot proposal for the residents to decide whether or not we want to do a road and ditch improvement program. And so the question is, why do we need to do a road and ditch improvement program? And if you live here, you know. Our roads are awful. They're cracked. They've got potholes. They're unsightly. They lower our property value because of that. There's safety issues. Car damage. We regularly hear about car damage from the potholes. And the last full-scale comprehensive citywide road program in Lathrup was in 1969, 50 years ago. Okay? And then the biggest problem that we have is the rate of degradation, or the rate of decay of our roads, is dramatically increasing. Because right now, the city can only afford to pave 0.4 miles of road per year, less than half a mile of road. And if you do the math, we've got 21 miles of residential roads. That means for all the roads to be done, it will take 53 years at the current pace. So we have a problem. And we'll talk more about it in a minute. The ditches. Anybody who lives here knows we get a moderate rain, the ditches fill up, they don't drain. Depending on where you live, the ditches may take a day or 2 to drain. In some places, it can take weeks for them to drain. And so you have standing water that attracts animals and rodents, insects, and so forth. A lot of times what you'll see, especially if you're a walker like I am, you'll see the water will back up over the sidewalks, over the driveway approaches, onto people's lawns. We have people's lawns who are just mud. You've got sidewalks that have spalled or become rough and decayed. And so, you know, that's a problem. But the biggest problem about the ditches is, I don't know if you know, but the ditches are designed to carry the water away from the roads. And when those ditches sit full, the water seeps underneath the road and it decays the road from within. So that's another big reason why our roads don't last as long as they should. And so those are the 2 things that we're going to tackle here. And before we get into discussing the ballot proposal and the details of the project, I think it's really important for you to understand how we got here, why the roads and the ditches are in the state that they're in. So I'm going to take about 15 minutes talking about that, and then we'll talk about the ballot proposal and the project details. And I know we're running late, so I promise I will stay as late as it takes to answer questions, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions at the end. So why is it, do you think, that we can't maintain our roads like we did 25, 30 years ago? It's a one-word answer. Money. We don't have it. The problem is we don't have it. And this is not unique to Lathrup Village. This is an issue that all municipalities are having across the state. And it's not that we don't have the money because it's being mismanaged or the city is spending money on things that they shouldn't be spending on it. Cheryl, our city administrator, our treasurer, they do a great job as our fiduciary in getting every penny out of every dollar. But municipalities are struggling because they don't have the revenue that we used to have. And why is that? There's really 4 reasons. One is the real estate crash in 2008. You think, well, that was 10 years ago and property values are increasing. Why would that be an issue? We'll talk about that. Reduced state shared revenue. We get significantly less dollars from the state than we used to get. And then we also have issues with Headley and Proposal A. And so let's talk about each of these 4 things real briefly, starting with Proposition A, which was a voter-enacted proposal in 1994 that was designed to rein in property tax growth. And it did what it was supposed to do, and what it does is it limits the increase in your property value from, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Your property value can only go up the lesser of 5% or the rate of inflation on an annualized basis. So what that means is if your property value goes up, say 15% in 1 year, your taxable value can only go up a maximum of 5%. So it reined in your tax growth. But there was an unintended effect of the law, and that was that it assumed that there would always be positive growth in real estate. And we know, 2008, that didn't happen. We had a huge crash, and we had a real estate crash. And from the time that the crash started in 2008 to 2014, when property taxes started going back up, Lathrup Village lost $75 million in taxable value. Think about that. Think of how small we are, and we lost $75 million in taxable value. So what that equated to was a revenue loss of about 40%. And actually, the auditors say was about 50%. They probably have more accurate numbers than I had when I put this together. But somewhere between 40 and 50% of our revenue was lost. And now if you think about what I just talked about Proposal A, you know, the property taxes were able to plummet, but the taxable value can only grow very slowly. It can only grow at a maximum of 5% a year. So assuming, and this is a huge assumption, that our property taxes, property value goes up more than 5% every year from here on out, it's still going to take to 2027 until we get back to the revenue levels that we had in 2007. Okay, so let that sink in for a second. And our auditors tell us, you know, because that's based on a big assumption that property values go up by 5+% every year, our auditors tell us that it's probably more likely to be the early 2030s. So we have significantly less revenue than we had before. And I take my hat off to the councils, city councils and city administration that was here during the real estate crash years, because they did a phenomenal job of maintaining services given that we had significantly less revenue. And the way I kind of talk to people about this is I say, imagine if you went into work tomorrow and your boss told you, all right, well, we're going to have to cut your salary by 50%. And it's going to be that way for the next 10 years. And you go home and you tell your family, and your family says, okay, we understand that, but we're not giving up anything. Well, something's got to break. And what the cities are going through the same thing. And what broke is infrastructure spending, because the cities just don't have the money to spend it on infrastructure. So that's how the real estate crash and Proposal A are affecting roads. We just don't have the money that we used to be able to spend on the roads. Another issue that we have is the Headley Amendment in 1978, which was enacted by the state legislature. And that was to limit the amount of revenue that cities could collect from year to year. And basically what it does is it says any year that the aggregate taxable value of the city grows, the city's millage rate has to be reduced so that the city gets no more revenue than it got the year before with an adjustment for inflation. So, for example, this is an overly simplified example. Can people hear me if I turn my head? Okay, just tell me if I need to speak louder. So in this, my pointer's better. In year one, let's say the aggregate value of all the homes in Lathrup Village was $1 million. So altogether, it was $1 million. And let's say we wish the tax rate was only 1 mil, but let's say it was only 1 mil. So that 1 mil would garner $1,000 in revenue for the city. Now let's say in the next year, property values go up, and the year 2 value is 1.1 million. So what the law says is that the city has to lower its millage rate, in this case to 0.909, so that we only get $1,000 of revenue. So our revenue stays stagnant. And so the problem is that the millage rate can only go down. So when the market crashed, we were not allowed to raise our millage rates back up. So the millage rates can only go down. And so from 1978 to 2010, our millage rates, our chartered millage rate, so we levy 20 mills per our city charter. The Headley Amendment dropped our millage rate all the way down to 16. So in 2010, there was a voter initiative, and basically what we did is we passed something called the Headley Override. And that's where the residents of the city said, all right, well, Lathrup, it's okay to put our tax rate, our millage rate, back up to 20, which we did. And then in 2014, when property values started going up again, the millage rate started to fall. So our millage rate is actually back down to 18.5 right now. So the millage rate keeps going down to ensure that we get no more revenue. So the issue is our revenue stays stagnant from year to year. The only way we can grow in revenue is by building new buildings. And the problem is when you have a city like many of the municipalities around here that's completely built out, we can't do that. So we can't grow our tax base. So the revenue stays stagnant. So again, we have less money to spend on the roads.
But there's no provision for inflation.
There is, not in Headley, not that I know of in Headley, but in Prop A, there is a provision for inflation. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then the last issue is state shared revenue. And basically what the state of Michigan has done is they balanced their own budget at the expense of the municipalities by reducing constitutionally required revenue sharing. And so Lathrup Village receives about $200,000 less per year than we used to receive back in the 90s. And according to the Michigan Municipal League, since 2002, we've lost almost $2 million in state revenue. Well, $2 million in state revenue is 4 miles of brand new roads. So again, it's less money that we have. Yeah, so the state, basically the way that they balance their budget is by taking money away from the cities. There's money that they're supposed to give to the cities that they don't. And if you want to find, I was going to mention this later, but if you want to find out more about that, the MML has a website called Save My City, and my is MI for Michigan. So savemycity.org. They've got a whole campaign that they've been that they launched a couple years ago where they're trying to, through the courts, get money back to the cities. But not yet. Not that I know. And I see our state rep in the back there. Wait, is that? No, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. I was going to say, I was going to pawn that question off to them, but yeah. But I don't know.
Well, just in the context, what is the annual budget of Lathrup Village? I mean, I've lived here a year and a half, so I mean, this million, 1 million doesn't mean anything. What is the total budget of Lathrup Village?
I'm not sure. I think it's, Cheryl, is it like around 6 million? Approximately. Yeah, actually, if we could, I'll answer all the questions, but can we just, let's go through it and then take questions at the end if it's possible. So here what you'll see, this is a chart that shows how state revenue has declined over time. So back in the 90s, we were up over here. You can see it jumps around, but if you look at the average line, you can see the average is decreasing, and right now we're at about 350,000, where we used to be up around 500,000-600,000. So we're getting a lot less money. And the one slide that I love this slide. This was put together by the Michigan Municipal League, and what it shows is the growth in municipal revenue from state sources for all 50 states. And what you can see is, for 46 of the states, there's positive growth in that 10-year period. So this is the money that the states are giving the cities. And you get all the way to the right here, and you see Michigan. One of the only 4 states in the country that has a decrease in growth in money that's being given to the cities. And if you look at Michigan, we've got a 60% decline in the amount of money that the state is giving to its cities. So again, less money for things like roads. And so you can see, just from talking about those 4 issues, Lathrup doesn't have the income that it had 30 years ago or even 10 years ago. And unfortunately, there's no magic bag of money to, fix this issue. There's no state money, there's no federal money, there's no grants. Local roads need to be fixed by the local municipality themselves. So if we want to fix this problem, we have to kind of come together as a community and come up with a solution. And so when I talk about this with people, a lot of times what I hear, and this is a 100% accurate statement, people say, yeah, but we pay such high taxes in Lathrup. I'm a taxpayer. I write that check out twice a year as well, just like everyone in this room, and we do pay high taxes. But one of the big misconceptions that people have about their high taxes is that you're writing the check out to Lathrup Village, but the money doesn't stay in Lathrup Village. Only a small portion of the money that you send actually stays in Lathrup Village. So you can see here, let me see if I can kind of turn and talk into the mic. So this particular chart here shows our overall millage rate, which is about 56 mills, and where the money goes. And so what you can see is right off the bat, half the money that you send to Lathrup gets sent out to the schools. So that money's gone. 8% goes to the county, 3% goes to OCC, Oakland Community College, 2% goes to the region, so that's the DIA, the zoo, and smart bus system. 5% is used for trash and recycling, 2% is used for the library. So what that leaves of that check that you send to the city, 31% of that check actually stays in Lathrup that can be used for operating expenses. And what I actually did is I broke that 31% out. I put a slice in there so you can see what percent goes to the streets. So only 2% of that goes to the streets. And so what I thought would be interesting is to make this real. That's my taxes. I paid $3,574 last year, and you can see again, $1,700 of that immediately sent off to the school system, $287 to the county. About $1,000 of that stays in Lathrup Village for operating, and here's the key number: 85% of my taxes that I paid last year went towards fixing the street. That's like filling one crack. So that's why we can't, or that's why we can only do 0.4 miles of road a year. And then I thought it would be interesting too is saying, all right, so 31% of that check that you write goes to the city. Okay, so what does the city do with that 31% that they get? So, or roughly about a third. So once that money comes in, again, half of it goes to public safety. They're all smiling back there. So the police and fire protection, and then you can see some of the other areas. But basically, what that means is you're now talking 1/6 of what you send to the city actually stays in the city to help operate it. And again, you can see the capital here, of where streets lies is only about 7%. And once again, here what I did is I also said, all right, well, let's bring my taxes back into it. Again, I paid about $3,600. Of that, $1,300 stayed in Lathrup Village. Well, again, half of that almost went to the police department. And again, the telling number here is $95 was available from what I paid for capital funding. Now, remember, capital funding is not just the streets. We've been putting $85 towards the streets, but that's water mains, that's sewer improvements, that's furniture for this building, it's computers for the the front office, it's any capital expenditure that we have, and $95 from my house. So so again, you can see we've got a big issue, and like I said, this is an issue that it's not unique to Lathrup. Other areas or other municipalities are having the same problem. So as we said, we put this committee together to try to come up with some type of proposal or solution. And the solution or the proposal that we came up, it's actually going up in front of City Council for adoption this coming Monday. But on the committee, it was a 5-0 vote. It was a unanimous vote. And basically what we're planning on doing or proposing is twofold. One segment addresses the roads, the other the ditches. And here's what we're talking about doing. So for the roads, what we're planning on doing is repaving all roads in the city over a 6-year project starting in the spring of 2021. And by repaving, what that means is that every road will either be reconstructed, rehabilitated, or resurfaced. And so those are three different things, and what would be applied to your road would depend on the actual condition of your road. So reconstruction basically means we rip out the entire road. So San Jose, for example, which is one of the worst between Santa Barbara and Rackham, which is one of the worst roads in the city, the worst. I would agree with that statement. What we would do there is we would take off the 5 inches of asphalt, if you can call it that, and then dig out the 14 inches of substrate or sub-road below it and start all over again with the road. Rehabbing is for those roads where the top 5 inches of asphalt is damaged, but the substrate below it is in good condition. And so it's a much cheaper approach, and it's where full reconstruction isn't necessary. And then for those roads that are in decent condition, at the end of the project, so they have a little bit more time to degrade further, we just mill off the top 2 inches and put a new surface on top of it. Now, this proposal or this project would also include paving the 1.9 miles of gravel road that we have in the city. Concrete roads, we have some concrete roads. There's 1.6 miles of concrete roads that actually need full reconstruction, and those concrete roads will be reconstructed with asphalt, so they will not be concrete again. And then we'll also, our city engineer will do our best to coordinate the water main improvements that we're making with road construction, because you don't want to repave a road and then have to break out the right-hand 2 feet to put water mains in and then repave it. We'll do our best. It probably won't be 100%, but they will definitely do their best. And then moving forward, the recommendation also calls for an annual crack sealing program to start 3 years after the project starts. So that's to seal the cracks. We'd be making a really large investment in the city, and we want to protect that investment and make it last as long as possible. So we recommended a crack sealing program. Now, the ditches, all the ditches would be reconditioned and graded so that they flow properly. So the way that the ditches are designed is that they're designed to flow from one end of the street to the other and then into a storm drain. And the problem is, any property on the street, if their ditch is flat, or if they've got a root system in the middle from a tree, if they filled their ditch in, if sediment has come in there, they stop flowing. And so what we'll do is we'll regrade all of the ditches so that they flow properly. In addition, non-functional driveway culverts. So culverts are the tubes that go underneath the driveway that allow the ditch to flow from one side to the other. Non-functional culverts would be replaced as part of this project. And those residents who have extended their culverts, there's some residents who have made their culverts longer, those extensions would actually be cleaned out. And by doing the ditch program along with the roads, what that'll do for the residents, that will save massive amounts of money by doing them together, because as part of paving the roads, a large portion, probably about 2/3 of the driveway approaches, will need to be, part of them will need to be broken out and then repaved to level them back to the new street. And as long as they're broken out, it makes perfect sense to dig up the non-functional culverts and replace them. If we didn't do that and we went with a separate ditch program, then a year later you might have to break out that concrete again to replace the culvert. And same thing with the landscaping. So there's a lot of savings associated with I think it's almost, don't quote me on this, I think the original estimate for the ditch ditching program was about $4 million, and we're about $1 million for doing it along with the road. So it's significant savings by doing these together. And then moving forward, so not a lot of people know, but kind of like the sidewalks, the ditches are the responsibility of the homeowner. And so part of the reason why we've gotten into this problem with the ditches is that we haven't really enforced making homeowners take care of their ditches. And so we've recommended code enforcement to pay more attention and be more aggressive about identifying and notifying residents whose ditches aren't compliant. Okay, so that's the proposal. Now to the stuff that we don't want to hear, which is the cost. And just a reminder, again, there's no magic, like I said, there's no magic bag of money. There's no federal state funds to do this. And the other thing that I also want to mention is we've heard a lot from Gretchen Whitmer, our governor, and the state legislature about different road proposals that they've been bandying back and forth. The thing that's important to note that has nothing to do with our local roads. Those are the major roads. Those are Southfield Road, 12 Mile, I-75, 696, M5. That has nothing to do with local roads. So if we want to do something, the community has to essentially pony up to do it. And if we don't do something, then we go back to 0.4 miles of road, and things, as I mentioned earlier, are going to get worse, and they're getting worse a lot faster. So the cost of the project, the project, both ditches and roads, is $21.3 million. So we're going to put on the ballot in November a request from the voters to approve a $21.3 million bond. It'll be split up into 3 bond issuances. So every 2 years for 6 years, we'll issue a bond for $7.1 million. They're 15-year bonds. And so to pay back those bonds, the millage rate that will be assessed is in year 1 is 4.48 mils, and then ongoing. I'm sorry, let me say that again. The year 1 is 4.48 mils, and the average over the life of the bonds would be 8.3 mils. So it's a big ask. To the average homeowner, now keep in mind that the millage rate is applied to your taxable value, not your actual value of your home. So, for example, my home is probably around $200,000. I believe my taxable value is somewhere about $80,000. Again, thanks to Prop A, which only allows it to go up ever so slowly. It's applied to your taxable value. Now, the average home in Lathrup Village has a taxable value of $67,000. So the average cost to the homeowner, would be $300 in the first year, and then $550 going forward. So it's a big, like I said, it's a big number, but no, I think that would be in the. I think it would be in the summer. The big tax bill. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you say those numbers again?
It would be for the average homeowner. It would be $300 in year 1, and then the average over the life of the bonds would be $550. Actually, $557. 15-year bonds. Yes. Yep. And just to mention too, we cannot guarantee this, but we took a very conservative approach to the structuring of the bonds with respect to interest rates. So it's very possible that the millage rates will actually be lower, but we can't guarantee that. And legally, when we put the ballot language on there, we have to say how we have to say what it will be based upon how we structured it. But we're hoping that it will be lower, but we can't guarantee that. So it's. Again, it's a big ask, but the problem is that there's no money anywhere else to do this. So if we decide that we want to do this, then we've got to do it ourselves, and we've got to pay for it ourselves. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you as well, to make this a little bit more real, this is our project plan, or at least our first draft of a project plan. And we'll put this up on the website along with a lot of information. I'm currently working on a frequently asked questions document. We're going to hopefully be able to put up, an interactive website where you can click on your street. It'll show you when it'll be done, how it'll be done, give you more information about the street. But this color-coded chart shows all the streets in Lathrup, all the residential streets in Lathrup, and allows you to see when your street would be done as part of the project. So, for example, my street that I like to pick on, San Jose. Yeah, right. Down. It should be red. It should be red. Yeah. So it's red, and if you come down here, you can see red is year 1 of the project. So that would be 2021. And the other thing I could say, I didn't mention this earlier, but the way that we set up this schedule is there's something called a PASER rating, which is a rating of 1 through 10 of the roads, 1 being worst, 10 being best. So the early stages of the project will focus on 1 and 2 PASER ratings, so the worst streets, along with 3, 4s, and 5s, because with 3, 4s, and 5s, those can almost always be done with a rehab, which is, I think, $600,000 less per mile than a full reconstruction. And you want to kind of get to those streets as soon as you can, because if you wait 5 years, they may fall into a Phaser 1 or 2 where they have to be fully reconstructed, and then you've just lost $600,000. So the engineer has used those Phaser ratings to help make this particular schedule. Last two things I want to say before I open it up to what I expect to be a lot of questions is we have an education campaign that we're going to start, assuming council approves this, to be put on the ballot on Monday. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to go door to door and talk to residents and give a lot of this information to the residents. And we do need volunteers, people who want to be trained on the facts of the how we got in the situation and what the proposal is and so forth, and are willing to go door to door. So we're looking for 20 to 25 people, kind of the block captain concept. So if people are interested, you can talk to myself or give your name to our city administrator, Cheryl Mitchell. And then the other thing I wanted to just mention is that the League of Women Voters is having a road forum here next Thursday at 7 p.m. And that's more from the state level. So we talked about the major roads, the stuff that's going on in Lansing for 75 and 12 Mile and so forth. So feel free to attend that. So I know that was a lot of information, and it's a lot to digest and a lot to swallow. So I will stop talking, and if you have questions for Kelly for her State of the City, or if you have questions about the roads, step up to the mic and
I really have a quick question about the ditches, because we had a very long-standing program of rain gardens in our swales, partly because they weren't draining,
right,
and partly because it reduces storm runoff, which is good for the Rouge and for our storm drain system. So it sounds like my whole rain garden, which the city helped me install, is going to have to all be ripped out?
Well, we don't exactly know the answer to that, and those are some of the administrative details that will have to be worked out as part of the program. I can tell you that there are some situations where people have, rain gardens and vegetation are allowed in the ditches, but there are a lot of people who have things that aren't allowed in the ditches,
Okay.
like boulders.
Okay.
And those people will have to move their boulders and then put them
Because
back
my
over there.
rain garden was
Right.
done in conjunction with the
Right.
city and SACWA.
Yeah.
South Oakland Water Authority.
Right.
We did it together. Somebody came and dug it out, someone else put the sand and compost in, and then I was responsible to get native plants.
Right, and the other, we're aware of that.
And to
We've talked
maintain
about that as council when we've talked about the ditches. One thing I don't know is the city engineer actually. That was a question.
I do have it.
Yeah. Okay. The one thing that the city engineer has included in his estimate, landscape repair for ditches that are dug out. Now, I don't know to what extent that is, and we can find out and try to get an answer.
Well, it's not about somebody doing it for me. It's a matter of, I have plants that are tailored
Right.
for that area. I bought them specifically as, things for the pollinators, for the butterflies, and to soak up the water when it's wet and be happy when it's dry.
Right.
Those plants will not necessarily go somewhere else in my landscape.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
it'll be a lot of work to move it. And I would want to move it myself, not have you guys dig it and dump it. You know what I mean? I
Right.
need to take out each individual plant.
Right, and part of the reason why I think we have to work that out administratively is because it's possible. I don't know your ditch and I don't know your property, but it's
Right.
possible that your ditch could be flowing fine.
It's
might,
not.
And might.
It
Okay.
never has.
Okay.
It never has.
Yeah.
That's why it became a rain garden.
Yeah.
That's why it was designated by the city and the county as, yep, this is a good place to put it. It's not.
Yeah, and so that's like I said, that's something that we have to figure out.
Okay, as long as you guys know that's an issue, because
We-
we had a very strong rain garden program. Every year, more rain gardens were being put in.
Yeah.
And so there will be more stormwater runoff if we remove them all.
Right, and our street has several rain gardens on it, so we're
Right.
really aware of it.
Right.
Aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well,
It's for the-
it's for the TV, because this is being broadcast as well.
First of all, I wanted to ask, when is this going on the ballot? When are we voting on this?
So this would be on November 5th.
This November.
This November. If,
Okay.
yeah, if it's approved by council on Monday, then it goes on the ballot, November 5th. The project would start the spring of 2021. And the reason why
Well, that was my next question, then why are we then waiting a following year?
because the way that the tax system works, the money has to come in first before we can start the project. And so it wouldn't come in until the summer taxes of 2020. And so we would.
Winter tax, though.
But the money comes, the way the tax system works is that this money would come in in the summer taxes.
Okay.
And so we wouldn't have the money until, the money wouldn't start coming in until until the summer of 2020, and people
Right.
have until
And so you
August,
have to
and
wait
then,
the
and
following
then you
year.
also have a lot of delinquent taxes, so we wouldn't have
So
enough.
you're waiting for the following year?
So it would
That-
be the next
Okay.
spring.
That was my first question. Okay. If for some reason this does not pass, do you have an alternative to this?
Not at this point, no.
When you were talking about you had to eliminate funds from certain things because of not having the funds anymore. Was rotating monies going to certain things ever in the mix where, maybe we take less from this year and, next year we'll take less from this and keep rotating around so there would be more monies?
This is probably a question for our city administrator, but I can attempt to answer it. The problem is there's not enough money to take around to tackle kind of these things. And the issue is, so for example, I mentioned our water system a little bit earlier.
Right.
The age of our water system is why we have, 30 to 45 water main breaks a year. And so when a water main break happens, we've got to put the money towards it right away. And so essentially what we're doing, it's whatever the emergency of the day is from an infrastructure perspective, that's what we're spending the money on, because we don't have, like I said, we don't have a big bag of money that we can say, all right, this year it's going to be the roads, this year it's going to be, if you remember the pie chart that I threw up there for capital expenditures, it was 7% of
Right.
the money that Lathrup gets. So it's,
Right.
I don't know what that, it's $95 on my taxes, for
Right.
example. So, the city administrator is doing their best job to try to fight those fires and have something left over, like we have to do the 0.4 miles of roads. So,
Well, I just wondered if there was, you could rotate
yeah.
things around. The other thing, you were saying we're not getting the same amount of money from the state, and you don't know if, other cities have gone after the state. Have we actually gone after the state, did you say, to try to get more money? And if not, what can we do to
The
do
last
that?
the last I heard, and I'm probably out of date with this, but about, I don't want to say, about 6 to 8 months ago, it had hit the state Supreme Court.
Okay.
I don't know if there was ever, I would assume if there was a ruling, I would have read something about it, but especially if it was a ruling in favor of the cities. That's the Michigan Municipal League is essentially a coalition group for all the municipalities across the state, so they lobby for the state, and they have filed many lawsuits, and they're, the Save My City, MI, again, just to mention it. Check it out, and it has a lot more information than what I could tell you about it.
And just to go back to the other thing, I know I did ask you, and you said, say the $300 that we'd be paying in the millage, would be
First
coming
year.
out of our
Yeah.
summer taxes. Is there a way to help the residents to maybe split it between both the summer and the winter? Because you're not going to be doing something anyways in the winter, so you're waiting till the following year. It then buffers. 300 is
Yeah.
probably not such a big deal, but when you get to the 600 or whatever it is,
Right.
to split that in half.
Yeah, that's a good question. Kelly's taking that down as a list of questions, making a list of questions. We'll find that out. I'm sure there is a reason why this didn't come up when I've been working with the treasurer a lot on this, and it was never suggested. Oh well, let's do this in the summer. I believe because of the way that it's. I don't know. I'm not going to say anymore. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out.
All right. I think I probably said enough.
Nope, that's like I
Thank
said.
you.
We'll stay as long as you need us to. So.
The 49% that goes to police and fire, how does that correspond to other municipalities?
Typical.
Typical.
Yeah. It's usually around 50%.
Okay.
But
Okay. And the second question is in a way related to that. Do we have any unfunded or underfunded pension liabilities? Because that, at some point, if we do, is going to come back and bite us quite badly.
I know we're doing really well. There's pension and healthcare. One of them we're very well funded, and the other one we are within the guidelines of the state. So, yeah, there was it was about and Kelly, maybe you might remember when there was a few years ago or several years ago we put I think it was $1 million payment towards I think it was the pension fund, and so we're very well funded in the pension fund.
Well, it is the pension fund that's too big in the one that's
Exactly.
not full.
Yeah, and so we're funded, and the healthcare, I think it's MIPSers. I know whatever the state guideline is, we are within it.
No one else has any other questions?
I either stunned you or did such a great job of conveying the information.
Okay, well,
Nothing?
if you don't want to come on camera and ask any questions or give any feedback, we'll hang around for a little while.
Well,
But go ahead.
I want to. Oh, Mark's got a question. So, yeah.
Mark Germain, Sunset Boulevard. My understanding, like gravel roads in the past, was I thought the city split that cost between the homeowners on the street and the city. You know, if they wanted to have it paved, will that be the case now, or?
There will not be an assessment to the special assessment to the residents.
Okay, because I believe the entire city at one time was gravel roads.
Yeah.
Then over time they were paved.
Yeah, I mean, those residents would be paying part of this, you know, they'd be paying the taxes as
Right,
well. And
okay.
we did have a lot of discussions about what to do with the gravel roads. And, you know, the issue that you have is that if we didn't pave certain gravel roads, then you've got somebody who's living on a gravel road who's paying, you know, $550 a year and getting nothing out of it.
Right.
And then you also have, you know, residents who don't live on the gravel roads, who have to use those gravel roads to get to their house. So it really, you know, as we talked about it, it really seemed to be most fair that to everybody that those roads were paved.
All right.
And Joe?
Cost savings.
Cost savings.
Greater.
Oh yeah, and then also, you know, thank you. Also, you know, if we do pave those roads, there are ongoing cost savings for doing that. So we're grading anywhere from 4 to 6 times a year. The city owns, you know, a huge piece of equipment, a grader to do that. We could sell that grader. The hours that were put towards that, you know, probably 6 times a year, you know, however many hours it takes, those could then, DPW did it, so then they can put those hours towards, you know, chipping or pothole repair or you know what have you, and then we also don't have to buy the materials. So we buy a lot of gravel that we're constantly laying down. So again, there's a lot of savings to not having the gravel roads as well.
So
Okay.
again,
I wanted to ask one question.
oh, go ahead.
So, you know, it's a big ask, and we all know that. I'd be curious to hear just, you know, from the people here, you know, what do you think? You know, is it something that you think is you know, is worth it? Is it something, you know, is it something like, no way, we shouldn't do this? Or, you know, I'm just curious to try to get a read in the room in terms of, you know, what your feelings are.
I have one other question. It sounds like we don't have a choice though, because there's no alternative.
Right.
So either our communities disqualify more, or we do this.
Right. I mean, it seems to me as a taxpayer, it feels like, you know, what kind of community do we want to be?
If you have any more questions, come to the microphone. It's only because of the
video
filming
tape.
and the video of it, so we can hear you.
Yeah,
Or I
go
can
ahead.
bring the
Go ahead.
microphone to you.
Go ahead.
No, okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
For, I mean, this, or November for voting, what kind of percentage of people actually come out to vote at that point?
Not a
Because-
lot.
Not a lot.
No.
So, actually, it's only gonna be a small percentage that actually then is approving this or not approving it.
Well,
which-
hopefully
Well, it's-
this will be.
It's also, this is gonna, I believe, and Yvette can clear this with me, well, help me know this, but this is a no reason absentee first election. So it's quite possible that we will have more of a turnout because you don't have to have a reason to vote absentee this year. So
Right, there are four council seats
it's
up.
still, even with the council seats up, normally there's not a big turnout. I think it might be 1,000, at most 1,000 people vote during the council year. But what we can do is just, we're promoting the fact is that this is what we're doing, and we really have to get everyone out and talk about getting out to vote.
Yeah,
but it is going to be increased because that's across the state of Michigan for the absentee, the no reason absentee.
I was gonna say, do you have any data in the past as to who comes out for these votes?
Absolutely.
As to, okay, so those are the people we have to target because they're the ones who are definitely gonna come.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we do want to try to hit every house,
Well,
and we're
yes,
talking about
they-
hitting every house
You
twice.
should definitely make sure you're targeting the ones that always do come.
Right. Yeah.
And the ones that are registered to vote that don't come.
Oh, we have unregistered?
Of course you
Yeah,
do.
But one of the good things about our community is that they do come out in much higher percentages than other communities. So, for example, in the last election, we were I believe second in the county in terms of voter participation, something close to that. That you may know that, yeah, second in the county, and it was a very high percentage. So, I'm hoping with something as potentially contentious as this issue, people will come out in mass. So.
Are the people that will be doing the work to the roads, would they be Lathrup Village employees, or would this be contracted
No,
out?
so we have a city engineer through Gipels and Webster, which is the company that we use for planning and engineering, and they would run the bid and put it out to bid for contractors, and the city engineer was saying in our last meeting that we would probably, based on the size of the project, would get some mid-sized contractors that would actually be bidding on this kind of project. So.
A slight question on your figures you were talking about on the average taxable value in the city. I recently moved to the city 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, so you're uncapped.
And so, kind of beyond this scope, you have a very, I didn't know this, but you contract apparently through Oakland County for an assessor. You don't use a local.
Yeah.
He's extremely unprofessional, extremely rude, and it was a complete waste of my time when I went back and tried to get them to reevaluate their assessment, because when I purchased the property, they assessed the taxable value 12 to 14% more than I paid for the property. And every other year I studied, it was about 80 to 90% of the price paid for property. So you said your figures are based on about $67,000, $70,000 value. So someone like me, that's going to be 3 to 4 or 5 times as much in tax that I'd be paying. So we're talking about a 2,000 to 3,000 increase a year, not 500 a year.
Right.
For those of us who moved here less than 5 or 10 years ago.
Right. So the one issue that you have are people who have been uncapped. So uncapping is when the house is sold, then the taxable value becomes half of the actual value. So you lose that gradual 5% that we talked about.
But it was even worse than that. The assessor that you had come in put the value of the house 12 to 14% higher than what I paid for it.
Did you appeal to the board of review?
Yeah, and the board of review, the 3 people that came didn't act like they really understood what I was talking about. And he said, oh, I want to gather your information to look at it. So he took all my information and disappeared, and I never heard anything other than getting a reject letter. But he even got to the point during the meeting, and I'm sorry if this gets beyond the scope. At one point of the meeting, he starts to go, well, your numbers aren't from the correct year, when I was quoting numbers from 2014 and 15, because we purchased in 2016, so you didn't have figures for that. So I went back into the Oakland County database, got the figures for the previous 2 years, which is how I knew the properties had been assessed about 80% of their purchase value. My property was assessed at about 114% of its property, of the purchase value of the property. And that was what I appealed. Nobody on the board really looked like they understood. I had a sheet, I gave them information. He disappeared to allow me information. I never heard from him again other than getting more letters, just say, you're denied, your taxes are what they said to were in the first place. So And I didn't know who to approach at that time because I didn't realize at that time he was actually someone you contracted with. He wasn't someone who actually was with the city. And I don't know if you still use him, but I mean, he got to the point where he got in front of the board and said, oh, all your information's from the wrong years. You don't have the right figures. And they all kind of looked at him. And so he just tried to like totally cut me off at the knees with what I was giving him, the information. And you know, I'm retired now, but I worked 28 years as a technical writer. So I have some expertise in putting together facts and figures. So I just want to make it clear, though, because I'm sure there might be other people in here, when you talk about 300 and 500, for those of us who have moved here recently, you're talking another 200–300% more than that.
Right.
You're talking $2,000–3,000 a year, which would almost double my taxes.
I think it's on a per. Yeah, it's 448 first year, 831 subsequent years per 100,000 in actual taxable value. But yeah, let's get your name and we can have the city administrator kind of look into what.
And also,
happened
it's unfortunate our county commissioner just left, but I would like to put you in contact with her too, that she can help you with the county assessor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? One, I really want to commend Bruce with what he put together. We tasked him with this, and he went above and beyond. I mean, I was not expecting this at all. I mean, I expected what the presentation was going to look like, but I really appreciate you taking the lead on that. And also just to not have him just sitting here looking pretty, but Ian Ferguson is also on the Recreation Advisory Board. And what we're trying to do is have all of the council people be involved on some type of board to move the city forward. So I will put you on the spot. Is there anything that you... Okay, so
I was trying not to do too much talking because I knew Bruce had a lot of data, but I think Bruce will have the answer to this because we already talked about it, but I think we need to share it with the audience. So you mentioned that the roads that are cemented or have cement will not be replaced by cement, and the reason why is because cement's costs go up every year.
So with respect to cement roads, they're much more expensive. So there is, as I mentioned, I think there's 1.6 miles of cement road that needs to be totally reconstructed. So that's a perfect opportunity to replace them with asphalt, which is a cheaper solution. And then with respect to the concrete roads that are not going to be fully reconstructed, what they do there is you may have seen it if you've driven through some of the side roads in Southfield. They'll cut out the bad sections and replace them with concrete and level them with the rest of the street. But they're not gonna like put 2 inches of concrete over that like we would do with the asphalt. So it's a different process for concrete. But 1.6 miles do need to be fully reconstructed.
Yeah. Okay. So my other observation, I think I can answer your question regarding the schedule. So right now, when we did our 2019 budget, we had a schedule for the roads, and we're still on that schedule. So obviously, if the millage passes, then when we meet again in 2020 to do our 2020 budget, we'll have a schedule for what we did in 2019, but a little adjusted until this 2021 millage passing kicks in and the money comes in. So we have a plan, okay? I mean, it's not that it's all or nothing, but at this point, the plan we have will not cover all the roads. It just doesn't do that. So I hope I can answer your question that way. The other observation is actually Royal Oak did every single road. They're still going through the process of redoing every road, including the dirt roads. And yeah, they had some opposition, but for the most part, every road is scheduled on a computer system to be done.
As is Ferndale and Southfield recently, I think 2 years ago, passed to do the exact same thing we're doing. So like I said, this is not something that's unique to us. It's just something that we as a city have punted down the road and down the road and down the road. And at some point, you got to do something about it.
Right. And the last thing also, so for the dirt roads, I mean, we have graded the dirt roads well over 20 years. We could have paid for those dirt roads a long time ago. It's just a cost disadvantage to continue to grade, and when you get a crazy rain, because right now we're in 1,000-year rains. We're getting major rainfall at any given moment, and you guys have been experiencing that. So for us to continue to grade and throw this cost into this grading process, it's just not a cost advantage. And so we've got to do something. And I think the young lady that has the ditch garden, I think rain garden.
Yeah.
So I guess I should say that we don't know what those ditches are going to look like once they're redone, but we have to assess how that's going to look going forward. So definitely it's on the agenda. So.
Will the roads be the same width?
Yep, the dimensions of the roads will be the same. The only roads that'll be narrower are the dirt roads, because I happen to live in proximity to one of the dirt roads, and I've watched over 30 years how that road has gone from about 20 feet wide to about 40 feet wide, because it gets filled with potholes, and then people go around the potholes, and so they slowly, year by year, wear off people's lawns, and the lawn becomes part of the road. So those would be reduced, back to 20 feet, and then those people will get their lawns back.
And that would be nice, because
Yeah.
I live off of Santa Barbara, and I've lost a lot of
Yeah.
grass because people are avoiding that pothole that's
So will there be any curbs in this new plan?
No, still.
So all the people that are riding onto our property are still going to be riding onto
Actually,
Yeah.
someone asked earlier
Yeah,
today about that.
Curbs are typically put in when you have sewer drainage for the roads, and we don't have that. We've got a ditch system, so yeah,
So
that would do more damage than help.
Okay, one last thing.
Okay. I saw Bruce's breakdown of where his money actually goes when he pays his taxes, and 2% goes to Parks and Rec. So I was really frustrated when I saw that, because I know how hard Chris worked to get all our parks up and running, and he's still got a great program going on. So if you really think about that breakdown, you got to say, wow, we don't have anything coming in. We have to do something about it. Every city's doing it, so thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna close it again. So if you have any questions or you want to just give any feedback, please hang around. We'll be here for a second. I really appreciate you all coming out.
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone that was tuning in that could not come out. And I hope you all have a good night. Stay hydrated and stay cool. Thank you.